Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Unite. I'm Kirk doobsnax Dubé, and alongside with me, our special guest, buzzer beaten Blissey, Phaz. Phaz, thank you for joining me.
A little bit of a tongue twister there. Happy to be here. Though.
Yeah, alliteration is a lot sexier when you don't like when you read it and don't actually have to say it. But thank you for
You
taking
wrote
the
that
time.
down? Okay.
I did in a tweet miles ago. I
Okay.
wrote that down. Thank you for being here. Of course, you are a very unique individual. Let me throw some lights on myself here, so I don't. I was gonna say so I don't look so pale, but I put the lights on now. I look way worse, but that's how it goes. So Faz, everybody, and I'm gonna say conservatively, everybody knows you from your amazing Blissey last moment score from the NA March Finals, which I had the distinct pleasure of casting in the moment, which was an absolute just heart pounding moment for me in the booth. Can't imagine it was for you. But before we talk about that, Faust, we got to pull you all the way back in the Wayback Machine. So before we get too deep into who Phaz is and your history in esports, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, the abridged version, if you will?
Yeah, so I'm Phaz. I started playing MOBAs and just like esports stuff way back in Dota 1 when I was in elementary school. So that was like, what, I feel like it's almost 20 years now since Warcraft 3, but it's probably more like 15. I was playing Dota 1. Um, and then, I had, like, I'm pretty sure every kid I went to play Call of Duty when it was in its heyday in the Modern Warfare days. But instead of just playing Call of Duty like most kids, I was playing, like, competitively in MLG tournaments, game battles, and stuff like that. And I actually ended up being rank 1 on PS3 for most of MW2 and COD 4 for Canada, and that was like my first big in esports, I think, or just like knowing that competitive gaming is something I wanted to do. And then I saved up enough money from tournaments to buy a PC, and I focused more on the MOBA games that I used to play growing up with Dota 1, and that led to me playing Smite, HOTS, League, of course, Dota 2, and eventually Overwatch, which was a game that I was professional in for 4 years as soon as it came out in 2016.
Okay.
And then when Valorant came out, I decided I wanted to maybe step back and coach because Valorant is a game, I had no FPS experience. I knew I wasn't going to be that good at it, but I knew I could bring a different perspective in because it's an ability based game. So I decided to coach, and I did that for a bit. And then Unite came out, and I've just been doing this ever since. I love it.
Okay.
That's
So
the short version.
yeah, the shortest of short
Long-winded.
versions. The shortest of short versions.
Yes.
I'm going to go through that, not necessarily step by step, because I think we'd be here forever, because that's a long
Yes.
time frame.
Very long-winded.
But not a lot of people pick up a MOBA at the age of, I think you said, what'd you say, 11?
I was in elementary school, so I might have been younger. I don't. When did
Jesus.
Warcraft 3 come out?
Yeah, okay. No, we're not going to, I'm not, like, I can literally feel gray hairs growing on me as we try and figure that out.
Yeah, it
So,
was like 8 or 9 for sure.
my
I
self
think.
esteem cannot handle doing that. But how do you? Let's say this in the competitive scene of that, is that what really like forged your drive to be competitive? Because you immediately went to a first person shooter and then like escalated that ladder quickly. But like game wise, those are two pretty radical jumps from each other.
I think it's just every game that I play, I've wanted to compete in. I started off at a very early age. Like my first memory of gaming is playing sports games, and I was super interested in soccer and hockey growing up, and that's something I could never skate, so I played soccer and ball hockey, and those are two things that I was super competitive in as well. And then, when I wasn't doing that, I was playing sports games at home, and then eventually, online gaming became a thing, and that's how I got super competitive in that. So I just think I have a competitive nature to me, and anything I do, I want to be competitive in.
That's awesome to me. Hearing that, one, first off, because I'm also Canadian, I also love hockey, and I also can't skate. So hearing all that is, one, very validating, but two, there's kind of this misconception that if you're not playing traditional sports, that you aren't competitive, which just quite simply isn't true. And I think there needs to be more individuals like yourself that are willing to step out and say, look, like, I like these things, but I am competitive in these things, and I have a drive to be competitive. You ended up, you Call of Duty Modern Warfare was the game that stuck out to me. That you said that you ended up ranking very high and being number one ranked in Canada for a
Yeah.
bit. Did I get that? Did I hear that correct?
Yeah, in terms of MLG points or whatever ranking it had at the time,
Mm-hmm.
the MMR system, I was, yeah.
So did you just start playing Modern Warfare and say like, hey, I love this game, I want to be competitive, or hey, I kind of have a knack for this, and I think I can put the screws to some people if I keep at it. Like, how did that, like, because there's time invested in going from playing a game to becoming number one MMR on the MLG rating
Mhm.
list. How did you find yourself in that mix, and how did you make the transition?
I think with every game, for me and just in general, like sometimes you just feel like you're better than people and you want to make that step up. And, in soccer or hockey, you might go up to a different division or you might play with older kids or something like that. That's usually what they do there. And then with Call of Duty, you don't want to continue playing pubs. You want to get into these custom lobbies and private lobbies and play against people that have the same drive and passion and skill as you. And then it just, it gets organized from there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think that's sort of what happened in my MOBA stuff too. Like I just realized like I have a knack for this and I'm better than a lot of people I'm playing with. Like, is there something else, a different outlet that I could play in and just grow from there?
So you did, in fact, grow from there.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss to not talk about your almost 5 years as a professional Overwatch player, which is hyper impressive and something that a lot of people strive towards. Not necessarily Overwatch Pro, air quotes, but eSports Pro, to say that they actually
Mhm.
make some money playing a game because of their skill set. How did that develop for you in terms of Overwatch? First off, how did you find the game? And then second, how did you transition from I like this game to all right, it's time to make some money on this game?
What happened with Overwatch is, uh, my friends that I was playing MOBAs with and made like a Smite team with and played League with all the time, like what I basically call my IRL friends, even though I never met, they were that close with me. One of them got into the beta for Overwatch early on because they were
Mm-hmm.
Shoot Mania Pro. I don't know if anyone knows what Shoot Mania is, but it was a arena shooter that is quite possibly one of the coolest concepts for a game. If you have a chance, look up the late events they had. It was super cool.
Well,
But
now that we know Phaz has stock in that game, go and check it out.
definitely, if you have some free time, look at the cool lands for Shoot Mania. They were intense, and that was a really cool game. But they got early access to the beta and said how fun the game was, and I was already interested in the game. But because of their experience, and that they met like a bunch of CS pros and a bunch of pros in different games. And when I got in, I started playing with those people and realized like, this game's gonna be super competitive. This is something I want to do, and just like Unite, I was, on playing in the very first tournaments of the game, rate being high rated right away. Like I was just a part of the scene right away and trying to make a name for myself as soon as the game started. And I think within a few months, we got signed. I was still playing with my friend. His name is Desro. The IRL friend. We made a team together and just climbed up the rankings from there.
So, I mean, you had a long tenure in Overwatch, and I know there's, I don't want to say tiers. Yeah, maybe tiers is the right expression.
Definitely,
Obviously,
yeah.
with the Overwatch League is obviously its own thing. But what did professional Overwatch represent to you? And I don't mean that in a financial sense or a compensation sense, but like, what did that mean
For
for
sure,
you
yeah.
in terms of what you had to do, the commitment, stuff like that? Because I think when people like think esports, especially if we're going straight into boomer mentality, they're thinking, oh, it's just a bunch of kids playing video games. But people don't realize that, hey, like you're scrimming 8-10 hours a day, you're VOD reviewing 10 hours a day. It's a huge time commitment. So can you just tell us a little bit about what that experience is for you? I mean, you did it for almost 5 years. That's huge. Like that's a huge amount of experience that a lot of people would love to tap into.
Uh, just to draw back the question a bit, just like what it taught me is a lot of like to make the most of opportunities you get because obviously, if you look, I never made the Overwatch League and that was something, I had a bunch of tryouts for. I also was they have a World Championships every year and I was trying out for that team
Mm-hmm.
every year. I barely missed playing a World Cup for Canada every time. The year they won, I was supposed to be on that team. I also helped make all the Team Canada teams that participated at BlizzCon and stuff. Like, it's just like a lot of regret and failure from Overwatch, honestly, that learned that I didn't want to take into. Obviously, I would say this is my next esports experience as a player, where you just like can't take anything for granted. You got to work harder than everyone. You can't trust people. That was a lot of my Overwatch career is definitely getting screwed a lot by either organizations, teams, people. Like esports is, just like everything, it's a tough market to get into and break through. And I'm trying to take what I can from that and put it towards Unite. Yeah, like you said, it was a ton of practice. Our team originally practiced more than everyone. We were streaming like 8 hours a day, and we were all like younger kids. A lot of people had like work and school and stuff. It was really rough, and but grinding that out, if we got really good really quickly, and then eventually you can tone it down a bit to focus on playing the best teams and just like VOD reviewing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. That's about it. It just taught me a lot about work ethic and myself, and a lot of lessons I learned just through hardships that I'm trying to they're life lessons and not just applied to esports.
Sure. I certainly don't want I don't want to put you in a bad way, but if you mind sharing maybe one of the specific lessons that you learned that, or maybe one of the things that you took for granted that people can, foster with them, like take with them and say, okay, Phaz went through this and they made it out the other side. But that's not a lesson I need to learn myself. Like I can use their experience to grow from. Maybe one of those experiences, if you don't mind sharing.
It's sort of like what you said earlier about like, oh, esports could be something that's competitive. I'm
Mm-hmm.
of the mindset that anything could be something competitive, especially like in our age. Like, you could be competitive at work and or esports or sports, or you could be a competitive. You could be the best grocery bagger at your store. Like, you
Sure.
could be competitive at anything.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
one thing I would say is always, look out for yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
because yes, you can be competitive, but sometimes like the people aspect gets in the way. But that's not the same for everyone, and you can just end up in a situation where you're maybe looking out for other people, but people don't have your back or looking out for you, and that's something I'm definitely more cautious of after that experience.
Yeah, I can sympathize with that, but let me ask you this: how do you parse that out in such a big team environment as the games that you have played professionally are? From Unite to Overwatch. I mean, those are team games. So where do you find that balance of looking out for number one, but also being a sympathetic and charismatic and compassionate team player? Is that a tough balance, or to you are those two different lanes?
Uh, I think I'm mainly referencing in terms of like sponsor opportunities and just other opportunities looking out for
Sure.
yourself, because there's deals that I could have taken early on in my career that would have put me in a better spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I actually did in this game right away. Like I was on a team after No Light when I was with Mike Spam, Bolby, and the Legend Relic. the former League of Legends pro. And we were okay, but then we disbanded and I made a team called Mid Traders. It was with the people that were on EU Wind Traders and
Mm-hmm.
Midnight, which was me and Retsu. And me and Retsu got an offer to join Shiny and from Red. And, I took it right away. Really no questions asked because I knew that it was a better opportunity for me and I saw the potential in Shiny and obviously, here we are now. Um
Sure.
that was something in Overwatch I definitely would have done, and that's something, I'm still cautious of now. Like, if there's a better opportunity for me, I'm gonna take it, and even if I have like big relationships with people that span maybe a year, so like who knows, I gotta look out for myself because someone else might take that opportunity on my team or that I know, and you know no one has my back the way I will.
Sure. No, absolutely. Absolutely. That I mean that makes a lot of sense, and I can only imagine the weight that that puts on an individual, especially as you were mentioning, like, hey, you kind of mentioned your air quotes IRL friends, but they're online and part of this amalgamation of growing in the esports, and it's such an amorphous entity that is unforgiving, and I don't. I don't want to put a boomer mentality on it, but it's so incomprehensible from honestly people in my own age group and older that just don't get. I'm not even quite sure I get it, but uh, I can see the struggle that people go through to make things happen. And for a game like this that I particularly care about, I see the moves that people are making and kind of the roster mania that we joke about all the time, and it's very dog eat dog.
Mhm. And
Uh,
that's something, I don't necessarily want to be a part of, but it's something I look out for more than I did in Overwatch. In Overwatch, I was definitely more, I'm just going to stick with these people because I'm comfortable with them. It was my first experience, really. Like, I made teams in HOTS and Smite that I was confident in, but they were just mainly friends. And, like,
hmm
I wasn't really
hmm
looking out for myself. It was just, like, a fun experience. But in Overwatch, when you're taking it seriously, and now this game, I'm definitely thinking about myself more, right? And I think everyone should, really.
So let me ask you this, and I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer, and I'm not even sure you can answer this question. But is there a pseudo line drawn in the sand for you for when you'll, hey, I need to stick up for my teammates here, my friend or whatever it is. But once something transcends whatever that factor is, you have to say like, okay, Phaz is number one here, and I need to make a move for myself.
I mean, I could get into this because he actually joked about, hey, dude, make sure to reference me on the podcast, and he was here before. But for instance, Feppy, he was on Shiny for quite a long time. I absolutely love Feppy. I feel like everyone in Shiny loved Feppy. It just came down, and the reason we had to remove him from his position and look elsewhere is because, there got to a point where we were playing scrims and the support that, we were expecting wasn't coming out, and then it showed in the, what was it, February Cup, that he was just making the same mistakes that we were talking about in scrims and I was going through in VOD review, and it was just completely like, once your team loses trust in you as a support, that they're not going to get that support, it's kind of done. And, we all love Feppy to death, even to this day. I talk to Feppy all the time. But, it had to be something where we had to remove him from his position. So that's sort of like, I don't know, like, Feppy is one of the best people in this community, I think. And like I said, I like the guy a
Mm-hmm.
lot, but there's certain times you have to draw that line where we're a better team if we look elsewhere sometimes, right? Especially when that trust is, like I said, it disappeared over a few weeks of scrims, and then it showed itself in the biggest tournament so far, and yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like that's a validating like if this then that type factor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not going to go into like personal morality, like, hey, I walk up to Phaz and say, I'm going to offer you X amount. Like, do you bail on your friend? Any of that stuff. But it's nice to know, like, hey, you're objective. You say, hey, performance based. And I've honestly, I love Feppy too. Love Feppy to death. And I've talked to Feppy, and they themselves have said like, hey, it came down to an honest conversation and a mutual parting of ways, which I think is maybe the most mature exchange of teams I've ever heard in my entire life, specifically in this community.
Yeah, exactly. If you're using us as an example, the community as an example, and what's happened with other teams, I definitely think that's one of the best parting of ways.
I mean, I think that speaks volumes to not only his maturity and understanding, but also, your. And it kind of sounds like you may have propagated that conversation, and sometimes it's got to be honest, and people respect honesty. Like honesty isn't always the best feeling thing to hear, but it's much better than catching it on the slide some other way,
Yeah, that's actually something we mentioned on Unite Mics for just the Blossom team as a whole. That's something that we think sets us apart is just our honesty between each other. Just as people and just as teammates, we don't hold anything back, and we're very honest with each other. It really helps us grow. And just our relationship grow, too. I feel like a lot of players hold stuff from their teammates, and it creates, like, small rifts that aren't seen, and then it comes out in those moments of stress, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nothing pressurizes faster under stress than cracks, right? So, tip of the cap to both parties. I mean, I can't say enough about Feppy, absolute legend. But let again back to Blossom, and that's ultimately where we want to go, and where I want to get to, because you might not know it, Phaz, but you and I are bound in a moment as hard as it can be. Your best moment is bound to me, whether you want it to be or not. So we're gonna get there, but I do want to ask you this, and I'm gonna completely derail the quest we've been on so far because it's my favorite question to ask to every single person that comes on Late Night Unite. Phaz, where does your gamer tag come from? How did you come up with that? When did you come up with that? Give me the story.
I think it started because I was fusion, like the word fusion I thought was cool growing up. Like I said, I've been doing this since I was quite young, so cool word, cool name. And somehow it divulged into putting a PH instead of a F, and then somehow it devolved into me putting an A, and then I still had the ION, and then eventually I just moved the ION, and then it was just fast.
So hold on. let's
Yes.
let's try and roll back this alphabet soup real quick. So it's fusion,
Yes.
minus the F plus the PH. Now we're PH fusion.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I put an A instead of a U.
Okay.
Because
so now we're
I don't know why.
fashion.
Fashion, yes.
And then drop all the... So fashion, okay. Then you change the S to a Z. So now we're fashion.
Yeah. And then I dropped the ION.
That's just Darwinism of a gamer tag if I ever heard it. Holy smoke!
Yeah, what Pete put in chat is basically what happened. Yeah.
I love fusion, fantastic, fantabulous, Phaz, question mark. Yes, that's the quest line. There we go. We figured it out. Absolutely amazing. I love this. So where did fusion come from? So let's bring it back. Is that, you said that's just a word you found cool and that's what you went with?
Yeah, I was literally 11 at the time, so I think before that I was Kyle Smile. So yeah, that was just something.
Hey.
Everyone back then in Call of Duty, or like Xbox Live days and stuff like that, was coming up with their gamer tags, and there's always the Z's and the like L's or I's instead of L's or L's instead of I's. Like people just take words and go off with them, and it sort of branched off from that, and then. Here we are.
I mean, there is nobody more with you than old doobsnax, which is an archaic name that has somehow stood the test of time so far. So, I mean, I made it when I was 6th grade, maybe, is when I came up with doobsnax, because I thought it was funny. It was a play on Scooby Snacks, and my last name's Dubé. I thought I was being clever. But here we are. It works out. Okay, so Phaz, how did you get into Pokemon Unite? Because honestly, it's a much different a lean than even regular MOBAs or first person shooters, which is kind of where your bread and butter was up until this point.
Uh, I don't know. I think I just saw the trailer. I was super interested in Pokemon Go at the time when I saw the trailer, and then it was just like, oh, MOBA Pokemon, this seems cool. Um, I think my biggest fears are still fears that I have, where it's like, oh, this is a Nintendo game. Like, I'm kind of scared about that, just knowing their history with esports.
Oh, whoa, Phaz! I'm gonna have to put the brakes on right there. So, um,
Sorry.
Pokemon is on a Nintendo product, but the Pokemon Company International is separate from Nintendo,
True,
right?
true,
So the
yes.
way they sponsor, foster, and pay into their events is
Mhm.
historically radically different than when
Radically,
Nintendo does.
yeah.
So that is the reason that I have a bunch of faith, and I don't think you need to be as hesitant. Be hesitant, always be cautious, but I don't
Mhm.
think that's necessarily throw all your caution to the
No,
wind.
yeah, definitely. With I built that faith over time. I'm just saying, seeing the trailer and not knowing much about Pokemon esports in general,
Sure, yeah.
just following Smash over the years, I was a bit hesitant in the game competitively, but I just loved the game. As soon as I started playing it, and I was playing it in Reddit stacks every day, hitting masters, as soon as possible. Like, yeah, I just grinded very hard at the beginning, and the trailer, I mean, honestly, the trailer, I think, is what made a lot of people super excited for it. I think it was super, super good promotion for the game.
Um, so, okay, let me ask you this. So, you thought the game was fun, but also, you said from the jump, you're like, competitive angle, competitive angle, competitive angle. Um, because obviously you want to be good, you like the competitive aspect, but you also respected the fact that this could go somewhere, I guess. What made you think that this could maybe transcend just, another Pokemon game, if you will?
I just know the MOBA community. I know, like, I've played, like, pretty much every MOBA, usually, like, fairly early on in its life stage, and pretty much every game I could think of has a early community of competitive gamers, and I just got um really involved with that right away. Like, I was doing tournaments. I was doing tournaments since day one. Like, as soon as there was tournaments of this game, I had a group of players I was playing with, just the people I was playing with, uh, every night. None of them play the game anymore. I couldn't even tell you their names, but I played, like, what, my first 2 months with them, right?
So,
Yeah, that's where it started.
so every competitive team has an origin story. How did you find your way onto? I know you a couple teams that you mentioned. Eventually, Shiny, now Blossom, of course. How did that quest, or how did all that coalesce for yourself around you? Obviously, as you're trying to find, some competitive footholds, to propel yourself in the game.
I was playing with and against Retsu for quite some time, and then eventually I joined Midnight, which was the team he was frankly carrying for quite a long time. He was one of the only mainstays from that team that I thought was super talented, and I really wanted to play with him, especially after Relic retired or went back to casting League. So when uh, I had an opportunity to play with him, I did, and through that I met Rin, and then I was playing with Rin and Retsu, and whoever we could find ranked like quite a bit, and then eventually after I forgot what happened, but for some reason Shadi was looking for people, Retsu was gonna take the offer, and they needed a support as well. Actually, for Feppy, and then that's how I ended up getting the spot.
And then eventually Shiny switches gears and becomes Blossom. Um, how did the Blossom team name come about? Because I mean that was a surprise to me. Not that I didn't think like you all would be a team, but all of a sudden it kind of felt like, all right, here we go, new team name, huge pivot, and we're doing our own thing now. I don't really need to know the business side dealings of it, but what I'm asking is, how did you all come to Blossom? What does that mean to you all? How did you all decide on that?
It was honestly just something Red had a guild name in or something in MapleStory with Retsu, and it's something they used in a bunch of different games, I think they said. And it sounded cool. I don't know. That's really
Okay.
it. And
That's
then
like not as sexy as I thought it would be, but that's okay. That's
yeah,
okay. That's
it's
okay.
not
That's
too
okay. That's okay. That's okay.
it's not too exciting, to be honest.
No worries. No worries. You know, trust me. We go by Phaz and doobsnax. Not everything has a grandiose story behind it. So you're part of Blossom. February did not go as you all intended, of course. But now you're gearing up for March. Um, you have a lot to prove, right? You all had to go through the qualifiers. Um, I don't think anybody doubted the team through the qualifiers, but I mean that had to be a slog regardless, right? Like that's still a whole day of just grinding, and you still have to be on your p's and q's. What was that like as a team that knows that like you are a next level team, but still have to, um, you know, kind of go through the paces?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, going into it, I knew we were the best team that had to still qualify. We definitely felt like we deserved to be in the top four. If I'm honest, like, we knew if Ren didn't ult at, I think it was like 220 by mistake on Charizard, we probably are in the finals for February, or at least end up top four, which means you don't have to play in the March qualifier. So we knew we were right there. We weren't too stressed about it, honestly. We knew we were just gonna get right back in, and with that shot, we weren't gonna miss it.
Was there any stress throughout that day? I mean that's a lot of games, right? Or a lot of matches. One match is potentially best of three games. I mean that's a lot. That's a lot. What was the energy like when you all were going through that? I mean, I don't think anybody would have, like, a perfect scenario, right? Is you're in the qualifiers and then you express lane, right? You qualify and then you just blow the doors off of the competition in the finals. But that's easier said than done.
Yeah, I don't think we were that stressed about it. We're a fairly confident team, and not a lot gets to us. I don't know if we dropped the map, but if we did, like obviously we pulled it right back. I don't know. Like I said, we felt like we deserved to be in the March Cup. We felt like we should have qualified through the February Cup. We had a mix up, a mistake that happens, and we knew we'll be right back into it. And just that confidence, I think, carried us through the day. And I don't remember being that stressed for the qualifier, if I'm honest.
Okay. I mean, yeah, when you're, when you feel like your team, like you said, is the best thing going, it makes it a bit easier to transcend and maybe feel a little less stressed. So I sympathize with that. But of course, the March finals arrive. Top 16 team. You're one of the lower seeded teams. Um, Again, I don't need a breakdown of a round by round, but what was the energy like that day? Did you kind of feel like a little nervous, and then as the squad was picking up steam, you're like, okay, here we go. Like, this is us. We're really materializing into what I thought. Or was there some hiccups early out of the gates? Because of course, being in the booth, we only see kind of like those top four teams, and obviously I got to catch that amazing run at the end. But leading up to that, what was the team energy like?
Uh, I mean, going into it, our bracket was hell because, like you said, we were in the bottom half, and it
Mm-hmm.
was rough. I think once we slogged out the first two games, which I believe was God, I don't remember the first game, but I know the second game was against Blackhand, and once we honestly destroyed Blackhand and the games weren't close, I was definitely confident in our ability to just
Mm-hmm.
go through the
Mm-hmm.
tournament. Blackhand is obviously probably like top three in the game, respectively, through the course of NA.
Sure.
And I can't speak highly of them enough. Like they're just incredible players, and they're the only team that's coached and has like that going for them. Like so, definitely when we not only thought that we had a meta read on them and saw how the other games were going, we also just saw how much better we were playing than Blackhead and knew we could just take it all the way, basically.
Okay, let me throw a stop right here because I have to ask. I can't let you off the hook with this, right? Because you're the one you mentioned it, so I'm gonna ride with it. They are the only team that coached. What is your thought on coaching in esports, and what is your thought on coaching in this game?
Coaching in this game is a bit. It's weird early on because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of different ways to play, and honestly, what coaches help to me is, once you're a year in, they're focusing on things like fundamentals, but branching off from them. But coaching this early, like we don't even know what those fundamentals are. I do think it's really good, at least in this game, and for them especially, just like working on rotations and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
having different perspective on the map, because that's something that not everyone's looking for. And the game's 10 minutes long, which might not seem like a lot, but there's a lot of things that happen in those 10 minutes. And using Mike as an example, he's looking at, okay, like why did they lose bot and stuff, like what happened on this Dino, what happened on this APOM top, like what happened on this gig. And that's stuff you might not remember in game to talk about. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just like having a different set of eyes, one that's hyper focused on that um those certain situations, and also writing them down, because we don't have time to let me open up a notepad after that gate was unsuccessful mid tournament, right? Like it's hard to make those adjustments, and a coach definitely helps with that. As for prep and stuff, I don't know if it's that good,
Mm-hmm.
like right now, but it will definitely be something moving forward that's a bigger thing. As for coaches in esports, I definitely think they're necessary, especially in MOBAs, and even Valorant and stuff. Like coaches just do a lot, like a lot that people don't see,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot that they help a lot of the back end, and you might not hear, like you never hear teams comms, and you don't ever see their practice, but that's where coaches shine, and you don't always see that. It's not as flashy as being a player it is, but it's definitely an important aspect.
I'm glad you said that. I know you've done some coaching. Can you shed some light? While we're on this tangent, can you shed some light a little bit? I know it's not necessarily the Pokemon Unite experience, but shed a little bit of light on your experience and what your coaching role has entailed. Because I think there's, honestly, I don't follow League of Legends. Like I'm trying to, because I think it's valuable to me as a caster to learn other casters and learn their style. And I literally saw one of the league coaches post like, "Do people really not know what esports coaches do?" And then the responses were just absolutely wild. So me
Like,
person.
actually, no, we don't.
Right, exactly, and it's not as indicative as people would think. So, without going too long, could you tell me a little bit about what you were doing when you were a coach, and what that meant? I know I literally last week I got excellence, kind of like P's and Q's on that, but from a different game and bringing it to this one, being a coach, I think it's super important for people to understand everything that the role encompasses.
Well, with Valorant, it was pretty cool because it's obviously a round by round basis. I think in this game, the what I'm about to mention can only happen between maps, but you can make a lot of adjustments and a lot of just like on the fly calls and on the fly reads in a game like Valorant, and that's something I was definitely good at. Like just, oh, this person goes here, let's do this
Mhm.
instead and counter that, and that's something I was good at. But also just like the person to person side, like I was really good at like mediating discussions and helping facilitate like problem solving because I was at the when I was coaching Valorant, I was coaching like 5 CS pros that were like super high level in CS, some of them signed and stuff. And like they know way more than me, and I will not admit that uh I was ever as good as them at CS or know what they're talking about with half the stuff they're talking about. But I knew I could help mediate those discussions and make them figure out the solution just by um, leading them to the conclusion or helping them solve problems to themselves or arguments. And just like I said, just through my watching of the game, I
Mm-hmm.
was able to like make calls and reads myself that could help them out too. So it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, I would say.
So, last question I'm going to ask about coaching. Did you find it difficult for you to garner respect from those that you were coaching because you weren't necessarily at the level they were at? Or because at that level people are transcending into the more professional phase of, competitiveness? They were like, okay, they're like, Phaz is our coach. They're not going to spin us a yarn for no reason.
Yeah, I definitely think it's the latter where it's like if we're trying to be a professional team, we understand the importance of coaching and we're willing to take any help we can get to make us the best.
Okay, well, I mean that makes it easy. That makes it easy. So let's bring it back. Let's pull it back. You guys were feeling great in the March finals. Dispatching of Black Hand systematically kind of gave, like you said, like a little bit of a proof in the pudding, some validation that you guys were cracked on the sticks. Certainly feeling it that day. You dispatched of a good team without much effort. Um, you made it into the top four. You're pushing forward. Um, are the nerves getting to the squad at all, or are you all pretty level headed? Like, hey, this is where we should have been, so there's no concern here. What's the energy like again on the comms? Like once you guys start get moving and you're like, okay, you're starting to see the finish line, and something you can actually put your hands around to deliver on.
So right after that Blackhand win, we actually lost the first map to Full Send, which is a team that we have a lot of trouble with even now, just because they honestly they work objectives like better than us and they just make a concise call like we're hitting this, let's and they all commit. Um, and that's something that they did in game one, and that's something like I said, okay, well, we can't let them do that in game two. We need to make sure they don't have that positioning on the objective, and we need to be more ready for them to, make that call that they're just going to hit this objective and decide what we're going to do from there, but we're going to be more ready for it next game. Um, and because of that, I think, going in, right when we lost, of course, like, you lose a map, you're down 0-1, your nerves are you're at peak stress, but as soon as we won the next game based off our read that like they're just trying to hit objectives and we just need to be more ready for that, I felt like our nerves at least going after that series and then especially after we saw GG lost and we had to play Lego like 3 hours later, whatever it was, like we were pretty confident we were gonna be like top two in the tournament.
So how does that play? Like I ask this because, in my competitive experiences, obviously not in Pokemon Unite, um, I'd much rather be playing than waiting.
Yeah.
Um, did that play a factor in? I mean, I know you look at Lego, a lesser known squad, certainly one that deserves more respect than they're getting. No doubt
Mm.
about it. No question about it. Um, you see them, you think you've got the personnel advantage or whatever, right? You're waiting because you're in the winner's bracket. Um, does the fact that you have to sit around sink in? Is that even a consideration? Is this are the spirits high because you're in the winner's bracket, or the spirits low because it's like, man, we've got some ice to break off when we come back. What's the energy like there? Because that's difficult.
Yeah, so
That's tough.
I think we needed to wait an hour and a half to play the winners bracket finals match against Lego, and through that we got to like see what they did, and honestly, like we saw how they beat GG, and we thought that like they can't do that against us because we're playing not only different stuff, but we were watching it, we were quite confused, like how they lost, just because of the comp Lego was playing. Like they played it really well. I'll give them credit, but it's just like something on paper we thought we could definitely beat, and we were confused how GG didn't beat them. Basically, is how I'll say it. And then
Mm-hmm.
we had to wait 2 hours to play Nemesis, which was a bit better because we get to watch all the games. Like honestly, Lego, I was more nervous for because we just sat and we didn't get to watch their VOD. We just
Mm-hmm.
heard that they were playing Wiggly Top. Like that was the only thing we heard. Like they're playing the normal meta, but they're not playing the Cario. They were playing Wiggly Top. So it was just like discussing that, but we never really got to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until after the tournament, I believe we got to watch. We found out one of the Lego people were streaming, so we got to see what happened. But before we didn't get to see it, and then the 2 hours we were waiting to play Nemesis, we got to watch all those losers bracket games and figure out what we were gonna do against Nemesis, and saw how they were running it. Obviously, they were also playing a comp that was super unique.
Yeah.
Going into the final, and they were doing something that was completely different from everyone. So that was cool because, everyone liked to say, oh, Dura this, Dura that. And then the grand finals had no Dura. I thought that was pretty cool, just out of both teams, that, like, yeah, Dura's super broken this patch, and, it might have got us to the grand finals, but it's not going to win us it because we don't think it's good at beating them with how they're playing their current comp.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give all the credit again in the world to Lego because they were doing something genuinely different as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And they made the top four, and that's nothing to scoff at, right? When
For
people say
sure,
the
yeah.
best teams around, Lego made it.
Oh, they
And
beat the best team in Unite, right? They beat the best team in Unite to get to the grand finals. Like,
no, absolutely. So they did amazing. Of course, you all did amazing too. But I love what you said. Duraludon seemed to shape the texture of this tournament, and the one team that was willing to violently break that status quo was one of the most successful teams to come out of that tournament. And so you're seeing Nemesis, and they are dispatching of Duraludon compositions, I mean, violently. I mean, it was gross. They were ruining teams on their way through that loser's bracket. But you guys squared up against them, of course, in the finals, which is what we're building up to now. And they were on a 6-0 streak, maybe a 4-0 streak, and then a 6-0 streak after the grand finals reset. Talking to Rin a little bit, they said, hey, we wanted to use the first two games to really just suss out our options here. You guys made a huge pivot after the reset, but what was the feeling in those two games? Was it pretty relaxed, like, hey, we know we're trying something different, we're trying to give it up a little bit, or we're like, it was a little bit of a panic mode? I know I keep asking you, like, what was it like on the comms, but
no,
I
for sure,
really
for
think
sure.
we want to bring some people at home into this conversation because that was a wild ride in the end. So if you don't mind telling me your perspective.
Not gonna lie, I feel like there was panic, and frankly, I was definitely pissed because I definitely thought our comp was just better and we should have won. And if you watch those first two games we lost to Nemesis, we were way ahead. We even won the zap fight, and they would come back and win the zap fight in the last minute. Like we would kill them in 2 minutes, they'd come back with green and everything at 1 minute, and we'd lose the game. Like it was rough. Like I was super sketched because I thought we made the right read. On paper, it looked like the right read. In game for, 8.5 minutes or 9 minutes or whatever, it seemed like it was the right read. And then something happens, one crack shows under stress, like you said, and
Mm-hmm,
we
mm-hmm,
lost both games, honestly, to the same issue. And that issue, we thought was like just comfortability on Venusaur and that Elo had, and we're like, okay, well,
mm-hmm.
we haven't practiced Venusaur in probably a month. It was just something we were doing just for that moment in the grand finals. like, let's just go back to A9 and see how it works. And I definitely think that made a big difference at Zap fights. Obviously, they were still shaky. Like, we had to win the last game because of, the moment. Let's call it, quote
The
unquote, the
moment.
moment.
The moment.
The moment. So, obviously, they weren't the cleanest games either, but it was just a more of a comfortability thing. But yeah, I was definitely stressed. I was definitely mad because, I'm the one that told us to switch comms. I was the one that made this read and then it didn't work. And it's like, damn, they just better than us? And are we just going to lose this? And then, obviously we pulled it out of that. But after the reset, it was a bit spooky for sure.
So I love that you said that, and I wanna kind of dial in on that for just a moment. You made the read, and it was wrong. Um, how do you?
No, I don't think the read was wrong. I think we just messed up. Like, the read was good. I definitely think the read
Okay.
was right.
Okay, so that propagates kind of the same question I'm leading down, right? You made a choice, and it's not bearing out the way that you thought it would, or the way that, we'll even say the numbers say it should, or the probabilities say it should. How do you keep your mental? Because that's very important in esports and in all competitive sports. How did you find your center? Whether you made the right read or not doesn't matter. It didn't go your way. So how did you center yourself and buckle up, because you still had 3 games to play? Potentially 3 games to play, I guess I should say.
Uh, Honestly, that might just be, like, for me personally, an experience thing, just knowing, like, there's still games to play, this isn't over yet.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like, Retsu is incredible at that stuff in terms of just making everyone chill out. Like, he's just, like, honestly, out of every game I played, he's one of the best teammates I've had, just in terms of mentality and just getting everyone back into the game and just being super positive and just, yeah, he's like, we got this, like, it's not a big deal, we made a mistake. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, Retsu also, he just, like, me, Rin, and Elo were talking about picks and stuff, and Retsu's, like, using the bathroom. He's not even there for, like, the discussion about picks. He just comes back and he's like, we got this. He didn't even know what we were going to do next time, but just, he brings that energy, that positivity, that, it doesn't matter what happened last game.
Mm-hmm.
We're back into this new game. And like I said, me personally, it's probably an experience thing where I always know there's another game. Even when we lose tournaments, I know there's going to be another tournament, hopefully, knock on wood, I don't get dropped or something.
Sure.
But yeah, I always know there's going to be another opportunity for me to win and prove myself. And that just, I never get too in my head about that.
Is it safe to say that Retsu is kind of the emotional anchor of the team, or am I going out of pocket saying that?
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, me and Rin are very, like, emotional people and very high energy, and Retsu he can be that, but he's also just Zen. Like, he can just calm us down and
Mm-hmm.
just get us back on track, especially, like, if there's any negativity happening, like, in game or in comms, like, any problems, like, he's very good at, like, just getting us all on the same page again, rounding us out.
I mean, and that's one of the most, I kind of want to say, intoxicating things about Pokemon Unite to me, as an outsider of the competitive scene, kind of looking in, is team dynamics to me are so interesting and so fun to hear about. Like, hey, we have this person and this person and this person, and they do this, and they don't say much, but when they do, it's here. Like, I love hearing that stuff. So, anyways, okay, you guys go down 2, right? Nemesis is on the roar back. Retsu Zen's out, does his thing. You pivot back to the A9, which obviously, I kept saying it during the stream. I was like, that's the key to the castle. Like, they figured it out. Like, that's what it is for this particular matchup. Game 1, you win. Game 2, let's bring us back to the final minute. And I'm going to tell you what I'm watching on the screen, right? I'm watching Retsu unite, or not Retsu, excuse me. I'm watching Rin unite and trying to burn down and trying to open some space in this bottom goal zone. Meanwhile, Retsu is cheat coding and getting the, like, top goal zone, and they shatter it with like 78 points. but you're still down. And here comes Phaz right down the pike with no fear, ready to dunk in the middle. Can you bring me back to the comms in the last like 30 seconds of that game?
Honestly, Mike saved the comms, and they are not impressive. Like even when we won, it was more like a delayed reaction. But during, like, it wasn't like I think we just thought we lost. There wasn't much. Like it was just like I don't even think Retsu said he was scoring top. I don't think I said I was running through mid. Like my life depended on it with X speed and helping hands spamming to get there. I don't like. I honestly think because we lost Zapdos and there was just such little time, we thought we lost. And listening to our comms, it didn't seem like we thought we won until like it said it like 30 seconds after. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like,
Fast, I'm dying out here. You gotta tell me something better than that. Come on,
no,
come on.
it's not as magical as it seemed. I was super hyped knowing I won us the game, and it was honestly watching it back. It's so awesome. Like, honestly, you say it's a huge one for me. I think it's a huge moment just for Unite and just the cast. It was just an amazing call by you guys, and the stream was just awesome. It was just a huge moment for the whole event. I thought it highlighted the excitement of Unite. That's something I feel like the game gets a lot of slack for. Is it's like sort of hard to judge like which team's winning, and like it's hard to spectate, and it's hard to see those exciting moments. But when you see it happen, it's caught and it wins a team the game. It's super cool to see.
Okay. Obviously, I'm super biased, but I'm with you 100%. And it was, on a casting level, it was nice. In February it was EU. It was all EU in February, right? There was just an absolute barn burner, a bracket reset, all that noise. But the fact that NA came on last, and that was the last play that everyone saw, like, that for me was just a rubber stamp of approval, like, on the game. Like, that was insane. Like, I don't know how you find much more energy in a series of 90 seconds. I don't know it's possible, but to your point.
That's why it sucks to tell you that the comms weren't as monumental as you might expect.
I mean, it was a ride. Like, I don't want to say I'm super tapped in by any means. I'm play by play. I'm not hyper analytical, but watching the last even 30 seconds of that game, I was just floored, and I'm pretty quick on the math, and I still couldn't tell if the points that were scored, one, counted, no idea, two, if those were the ones that made the difference, and once they did, I mean, the chat came unglued. Like everybody just lost their soul, and I'm pretty sure it's the reason why Blissey, Score Shield Blissey was played for like the next 2.5 weeks. So how do you?
It's still being played. It's still being played.
I mean, how do you feel about that? Not only obviously winning is grandiose, but seeing that this is a massive ripple effect back into the community, hyper huge moment. You are the all-star of that. Like you said, whether there was other factors at play or not, of course it's a team effort, but that's what opened the gate for you to be the star in that moment. And then the fact that, like you just said, we're still in that moment because people are like, holy smokes, Phaz did this, I'm running it back, it works, you know what I mean? Like, what does all that mean to you?
I mean, it's super cool because I think like I said, going into the tournament where we had a read on the meta, besides Duraludon being as broken as it was, I think everyone saw that. I don't think many teams were playing both A9 Attacker, and basically no one was playing Blissey. And me playing Blissey was just something we had, like, I think we played, like, 2 rank games before a scrim block on the Thursday, and the tournament's on a Saturday, and I just picked Blissey, and because I said, this is actually, like, pretty good with A9 and Duraludon. Like, I could just clear the Duraludon stacks with my Safeguard, which counters their Duraludon. I can safeguard our Duraludon so his ult doesn't get canceled,
Mm-hmm.
and Helping Hand is super good for both of them because they're both attack speed based. So, then now seeing that that's like a huge part of the meta still because, but there hasn't been nerfs to those Pokemon. It's just been towards Duraludon. Like,
Sure.
you're still seeing so much A9 and Blissey play, and like, that was something we came up with, and it's super cool to see just the influence that Arwen had, both on the community and on us, right?
I mean, it was amazing, and there's nobody that gives less credit to Blissey than Kirk Dubé. Um, and I cannot be more happy to be wrong. I doubted it in the March finals. I doubted it in the G4 tournament. Uh, I mean, I'm a walking bag of mistakes when it comes to Blissey. So I cannot be happier to speak to you to say how proud you are of the development you've made into the metagame. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. I mean, that's as fledgling as this game is, to me, that's very important, and I hope it means the same to you.
Like honestly, like watching it back, like from my POV and stuff, like I didn't even play it that well. Like obviously, I didn't have a lot of time to play it. It was just sort of something I picked up, and
Mm-hmm.
like even now, I'm not like too happy with my Blissey play compared to like my actual defender play. But watching everyone sort of just like slowly get better at it at the defender role because obviously it was a support that people were playing before
Sure.
is like pretty cool that everyone's like developing a Blissey now because of something I said we should do and just picked in a rank game. Like now everyone has to do it. Everyone needs to have that at least practiced.
Right, that's the positive ripple effects, though. Like, you're by proxy making the region stronger, right? Just like
Yeah,
Nemesis has done that with their unique composition. You send ripple effects back. Like, you have to be ready. You know what I mean? It's like you can't just be comfortable. You have to just be ready. And that can't go unsaid. Obviously, the March NA March Finals winners, which I have like the unlimited privilege of getting to cast and hopefully doing it justice. But you all win. Um, how did that feel going into the NA qualify, or excuse me, the AOS Cup qualifiers? Watching that develop, knowing that your position is secured, and trying to suss out the teams you might have to face later on down the road. I mean, Gaming Gladiators not making top four has to be scary, right? Because they're such a strong team, and they can roar back up, through the bracket, almost guaranteed in their minds to qualify in the AOS Cup qualifiers. And I mean, they're a bracket buster, right? If we're just looking at rankings. So what was your feeling in the squad? Like, obviously comfortable that you made it, but also ready to know that, I mean, there's a lot of sharks in the water still.
yeah. This is honestly just like just to talk about the AOS Cup coming up. This is like the biggest event so far. Yeah, I feel like both from obviously a prize pool aspect, but just the competitive aspect. Like there's so many good teams going into this tournament. Everyone's taking games off each other. Everyone's has their mistakes, and like you said, like GG, who was the kings of the castle for the entire game's duration,
Mm-hmm.
loses a losers bracket, right? And is like a what eighth seed or something. That's something you wouldn't have said going into the March qualifier, let alone them practicing for 3 weeks after what I would say was a disappointing performance in March for their standards, right?
Sure.
Like they went back to the drawing board and it still didn't work. Like did NA catch up to them, or they just found out, or like what's going on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then just like with everyone in the see, there's a lot of like teams that just got built for AO's Cup because it's a money thing that weren't participating in cups, like low expectations. And I know Toss was trying to qualify, but their roster was different before, and now their roster is more fleshed out, and they're more ready to participate in the AOS Cup. Like, uh, I'm not saying they weren't for the cups, but they're definitely more rounded out now, and they're more confident.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of confident teams going into the beginning of May. Like, it's gonna be really cool.
Again, as a spectator of the esport, I am absolutely elated. What does the preparation for Blossom look like? I know you had a little bit of an unceremonious exit from the G4 tournament there, which is a couple bucks on the line. Um, what's the preparation looking like? What's the energy like on Team Blossom?
With honestly, I think with G4, just touch on that, and just even going on right now, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff with our team where individuals aren't able to play the game for whatever reason. Just a lot
Sure.
of like personal stuff that's going on in our lives that you can never plan for, and that's kind of held us back. But we're slowly starting, like it was a little bit last week and
Hmm.
definitely this week, getting back to scrimming as a team, and um, I don't know, I'm optimistic. There's a lot of time that we have to prep for the teams in our group and just the tournament as a whole. And honestly, I'm confident in our ability to do that. I think we've shown a lot, like with prep, like going into March Cup and going into the first Shiny League tournament, we could be one of the scariest teams in the game because we can play so many things and we think about the game different from every other team and we prep for every single team. We don't like I'm trying to counter every team we play. I don't care who they are. I tell Rin, is this good against this? Or like is a bot lane pick good against this? Like I'm not trying to be the best at one thing. I want us to be the best at everything. Right. And I'm super excited to get into that. We have a long time to get into that. Hopefully, life stops getting in the way, but I'm sure it will, and we'll be right back up there. I'm sure, regardless of what happened with G4.
Well, the comeback is on the verge here because the AOS Cup is, as you mentioned, the biggest stakes we've had in Pokemon Unite. Again, in our little fledgling scene here, that we're obviously both so compassionate about. Phaz, what a wonderful ending point here for us. I think I beat the brakes off you with all the questions I have here. But if you don't mind, just take a quick moment. Anything you want to share, shout out, plug, whatever. The floor is yours. Completely up to you. Go for it.
Shout out to obviously Blossom Unite, our Twitter. Follow us if you want any updates on us streaming our scrims or playing in random tournaments or, you know, help us find a sponsor. Obviously, shout out to Unite Mikes, my favorite group of guys doing so much for our scene in terms of building up these every team basically. Like you said, it's about getting in the head of these teams and listening to what's happening behind the scenes. That's stuff that teams don't get or the fans don't get, right? Not everyone's sharing that information, and you guys are like not only sharing that information, but you're trying to get it out of all these teams from all different levels, and I think it's super awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And my Twitter, I'm starting to coach soon individually. If anyone's interested in that, I should be posting that soon. And I've been streaming a lot of our scrims recently at Phaz app, which is Phaz forward and Phaz back.
With the Z remaining constant, right? It's not a double Z.
Yes, it's not a double Z.
I'm
It's the
embarrassed to
same as
say.
my Twitter.
I'm embarrassed to say that I just figured that out literally yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, Faz app, and then it like took me a minute, like the light bulb finally clicked
Yeah,
on. Uh,
Phaz is taken on Twitch and Twitter by like some 60-year-old man in Ohio. I don't know why. I think his name is like it literally starts with a P and his last name has HAZ in it. So he took that before me. So here we are. I had to make my own adjustment to the tag.
the peakster coming unglued in the chat. Holy, I just realized it was a palindrome. Um, Baz, I thank you so much for taking some time out to be on Late Night Unite. I'm going to go through our stuff, so please bear with me here. I'm Kirk doobsnax Dubé. My co-caster and my partner in casting, PIC, is of course Zoinks. I'm play-by-play. He's color. We do the best we can to highlight the individuals on Late Night Unite and the teams on Overdunk, his show here on Unite Mics. And of course, hopefully we bring the most barn-burning commentary that you have available. So please like or follow or whatever the nomenclature is for whatever platform you're watching us on right now, and follow all our escapades over at Unite Mics on Twitter. Phaz, again, I cannot thank you enough. But to everybody that tuned in today, peace, love, and hugs. Thank you so much, and be safe out there. It's just rough.